Okay, what up? What up? Welcome to a live edition of the Exhibit Show. It's NFL Free Agent Frenzy. This is day one of the legal tampering period in the National Football League, which I basically tweeted and said should be abolished because it feels like the legal tampering period started a week ago in Indy. But as you're looking right now, somebody is joining me. That is my illustrious guest from the New York Daily News, Pat Leonard, New York Giants beat writer, NFL reporter extraordinaire, joining us right now on the Exhibit Show. Thank you for joining me.
You got it, Josina. Always a pleasure. Busy day. Like you said, it's not like everybody's calling each other up today at the start of the legal tampering. Hey, let's get a deal done. Right? It's a mystery that the structures of these contracts are already done, right? When noon hits.
I mean, do you know how many GMs I text me said, or people text me and said, so we had all these deals agreed to 2 minutes into the legal tampering period. That was some fast negotiating. So anyways, listen, a lot has been going on. Obviously, since you cover the Giants, I'm just going to let you just set us up with really quickly your reaction on some of the moves that the Giants made. I know I just tweeted out some activity supposed to be expected from the Giants later on today, unless for some reason that, bumps down. My expectation is, right now they're trying to work on some stuff with their own guys, but that certainly is not the blockbuster. It started today with Isaiah Likely, and go ahead from there.
Yeah, for sure. Isaiah Likely, somebody that John Harbaugh mentioned right off the bat and kind of unsolicited at the combine so everybody knew, as we've seen now, Wan'Dale Robinson to the Titans, everyone had a good feeling that Wan'Dale Robinson was not re-signing with the Giants, that he was going to be priced out of what they were going to pay. So Harbaugh was asked, how do you figure out the slot receiver position and your weapons losing a player like Wan'Dale? And he referenced several different ways teams can do that. And he said, oh, you could use a tight end like Isaiah Likely. Kind of everybody's eyebrows went up, but it was obvious why, right? This guy, he scores points. He catches touchdown passes. He's versatile. He's good off script. He's a good receiving tight end who has had good numbers even playing with one of the better tight ends in the league on the same roster in Mark Andrews. Interesting from a lens too, Josina, of everyone's fascinated in how differently are they going to build the team with John Harbaugh now with him here versus Joe Shane, who is still in the building but is no longer running the roster and the team. And you can see over the recent years, they've drafted all these tight ends in the mid rounds. Daniel Bellinger, who just signed with the tight ends, Theo Johnson. They get Thomas Fedone in a late round. But remember the Darren Waller trade and contract, right? They've just thrown so many darts at this position and haven't been able to sit back and say the following offseason, we got this right. So, yes, it's going to cost you money as it is here with the Isaiah Likely deal for the Giants. 3 years, 40 million, can be worth up to 47.5 million. But that's what good players, potentially premier player, if he grows into that role here with Jackson Dart, costs, right, on the market.
Well, I wanted to say this about Isaiah Likely real quick before we move on, but I remember seeing Isaiah from the beginning of his career with the Ravens and just seeing how much he developed into a trusty target for Lamar Jackson and just being really, really reliable and also just very humble too. So you can tell why John Harbaugh would want him to be a part of the Giants. He's a Harbaugh type guy. We were talking about this earlier today when I was on the phone running downstairs to get 3 bites of pesto ravioli in between, my phone going off. And then I was like, I gotta go. Hung up on you, ran up the steps. And I think it was somebody, one of the Saints players. I don't know. Somebody was texting me about something. But I was saying that the way he uses his body in the air just kind of reminds me of AJ Brown in the way that he occupies space and is able to kind of box out guys in the air and be a sure target on those 50-50 balls. But really quickly, just kind of segueing from there, and I know this is off Giants, but still in the NFCs, which I know you also pay attention to, but obviously been tweeting a lot about AJ Brown, a lot of people trying to figure out what is going on. I think that he is a top wide receiver, obviously, in this league, and there have been talks trying to figure out if he's going to stay with the Philadelphia Eagles, go to the Patriots. Others have reported that the Chargers checked in, whatever. All that to say, in my opinion, there's no better fit for AJ Brown than the New England Patriots. And everything I've been hearing relative to just what sources are telling me, I'm not, they're on the phone. I can only tell you what people tell me. but that there have just been different, talking points in this negotiation as far as finding a compensation package, that would work, starting off from something that was multi-asset. And someone mentioned to me a first, a second, and a player. And then from there, maybe a first. And then, from there, I heard another adjustment that I had tweeted today, even though I heard it yesterday, which was about, potentially being okay with a second rounder in 2026 and a first rounder in 2027. So I was asking, okay, well, why, would that be okay? Because, you would think, naturally, organically, okay, you'd want the first usually earlier. But some sources were explaining to me that potentially the perspective on that is that the draft class is perceived to be stronger next year. And the Eagles already have 4 picks in the top 100. So maybe Howie, knowing, again, always thinking about 4D chess and what works for him, right? But what might get the ball rolling for somebody else is, okay, I've got these assets. Maybe I'm okay. Maybe I'm okay with this, at least in talks with this team at this point. Things are fluid. Don't hold me to that. Okay. But my perspective here that I really just wanted to say is, I don't know, besides the complexities with doing things before June, 1st for the Philadelphia Eagles, is I just don't think there's any other choice here for the Patriots. No Stephon Diggs. You need an edge factor. Vrabel. I mean, last night, I'll add this onto this live feed. Somebody told me that at least in talks, when you're doing due diligence and a name comes up, that Olave's name had come up potentially to check in, with the Saints on that. Now I didn't get that corroborated on the other side as far as checking in, but apparently at least this has come up in, discussions. But regardless, when I was having my discussion with my source, I was like, anybody mentioned that it's a better fit than AJ Brown? So what are we talking about? Right. Other than the June 1st stuff, you know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
No, I think you hit it on the head too, from a standpoint of from the Patriots side of things. This has to be your guy. Diggs gone, Pierce re-signs in Indianapolis. The rest of the free agent wide receiver class, there's nothing comparable. And I think from the Eagles' end, I agree with you that Howie's smart enough to know he has to resolve this situation, and that means likely getting rid of AJ Brown, especially because the Eagles had a chance to pick. They picked the quarterback, right? And so I also believe that given AJ's age, even though he is still at the top of his game, if you're going to leverage a player of this magnitude for some sort of return and you're the Eagles, now's the time. And ideally, he would be on your team, and he's good enough, great enough, that if you're Philadelphia, you can't sell him for nothing. But I do believe that he is that much of a game changer. You put him on that New England roster next year, you can instantly talk about going back to the Super Bowl as a realistic outcome because he's on that team. I will say this too, Josina. Without him, I think Devontae Smith is a very special player. But I think if the Eagles make this trade, you got to go right back into the draft and do something with some premium assets at that position for Jalen.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
even though their offensive line needs to be the priority, that's going to be what's going to transpire in Philadelphia as well if they trade him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that would leave a big vacuum. Let me make it clear. I mean, I don't think Howie should even get rid of him because I just don't, that's just what I think of AJ Brown and some of the stuff talked about in the locker room and this, that, and the third. Other people, reporting about the whatever, to me, as a leader of a team, this is something, if there's anything that was there that you can handle. Also, I feel like for my perspective, from what I have seen, from AJ in the locker room, I saw somebody that could see that I saw. And matter of fact, you actually have a funny story. It's not funny, but it's just interesting. Well, man, I was at where was I? I'm talking to myself and talking to you at the same time.
You are.
I am. But where was I? I was at Super Bowl, and I'm coming back from the media credential, the media whatever. And I walk into Sephora because I have to have this blush color from Rare Beauty, whatever. Shout out to Selena Go, whoever thing that is. But anyways, I had to have this color. And I run into AJ Brown at the Sephora. And I was telling them, I was just like, bro, I just want to tell you, when I was interviewing you this year, I really felt like I thought you, at least from what I could see, you handle things with, maturity. There are a lot of times when, the Eagles media group are peppering him with questions as they should be. And I seen him stand in the gap, answering them. And obviously, some of the questions can get annoying after a while. So, and he's growing in his maturity and as a man on and off the field. So that's what I saw. And if I'm Howie, I don't even get rid of him. But if
Right.
you are, and obviously I would like to think that you'd be a GM who's not going to put him somewhere where he don't want to be, considering the contributions he's made to the team and being a championship caliber team. This is to me the fit.
No, I agree. I agree. I think that the reasons AJ Brown has voiced displeasure are very real and very valid, but I just think that the organization seems to have made a decision on where they're going to go is the only thing.
As far as
Just they're not going to completely acknowledge or decide at this juncture that certain limitations or frustrations with quarterback play are going to lead them to replace said player or make some drastic decision in that area. The decision instead is to go find maybe a landing spot for this elite playmaker who ideally you would not get rid of, but the situation might just be, you know, one that would continue to rock the boat through choppy waters next year. Like we've seen with the Philadelphia Eagles, they are, and this is the interesting thing from the Giants' standpoint, is you hire a great head coach in John Harbaugh, an experienced head coach. You feel like you maybe have the best coach in the division, but from a talent standpoint, you're still playing catch up with Philadelphia and with Dallas, in my opinion, as well. And so, if you're the
hold on,
Giants,
just want to add this real quick. Hold your thought.
yeah, go ahead.
Um, Adam Schefter is reporting, just I'm sure everyone else has already seen this on Twitter, that Tua is planning to sign a 1-year deal with the Atlanta Falcons. So obviously we're live, can't be, breaking news and talking at the same time. We're trying to.
What do you
But
think of that?
what do I think of that? Oh, well, I just have so many thoughts on
I know, I know,
Kevin
I opened a can of,
Stefanski.
I opened a can of worms with that question.
I have so many thoughts on Kevin Stefanski. What do I think? I mean, I think I remember 3 years ago at the combine, I was reporting some stuff on Tua relative to the combination of concussions and either I can't remember the exact report, but I remember it went viral and people had issue with it. And all I can say is, I remember at the time after the report that he didn't go on to get the extension that year, and then it was about the fifth year option, so they did not give him the extension, which was in line with what I was saying. It always, listen, Pat, it always bears out after the fact, you know what I'm saying? It's like I've been doing this 20 years, like it bore out. And this is no shade on to or what have you, but this is just relative concerns to the history at the time with the concussions and things like that. Now he eventually got his deal, but now he's not with the Dolphins. So now, with this report, fast forward to Adam Schefter reporting that he is expected to agree to or agreeing to a deal that expected to sign with the Atlanta Falcons. And we'll just see, how that works out for Kevin. I mean, obviously, I think that Tua can still be productive. I've seen him be productive, with the offense at time when he has assets like Jaden Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I think the concern for me there with the Falcons, as far as and this is probably why it's a 1-year deal, is just that if he were to get another concussion, what does that do to the overall macro view of his length of time, in the NFL, and then the Falcons finding a long-term, solution from there. Go.
Yeah, no, I agree. Here's the thing about players like Tua, like in my opinion, it's okay to say like it does. Not everyone is worth a big deal and a new opportunity if they don't play that well on the field. Like in my opinion, this is not a player that should be coveted. I don't think he's very good. I think he has shown himself to be, uh, from what I have seen, not the best leader. And I think for him, this is great because he gets to go to a team that plays in a dome. And if he gets an opportunity to play a couple nice games with no conditions, maybe he goes and gets that next contract. So the 1-year term for him is a great thing, right? It enables him to play a little bit of good football and maybe capitalize somewhere else. I don't really understand it from the Falcons standpoint. But a big name, a high first round pick when he came out. So I get why it's big.
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to go as far as say I don't think he's good. I think well, or the leadership thing. I would say maybe that's not his first strength, and that there's probably others on the team who are better at stepping up in that role. But I definitely get where you're coming from with that. I mean, I would say that there are games that I've watched with the Dolphins where I've seen Tua be. I've seen him throw multiple touchdowns. I have seen him be effective. Now, does he have weaknesses? Does he have things that or spheres that of his game that could be better, of course. But my thing with Kevin Stefanski and the Atlanta Falcons, to just make sure we go just to go back to that, is that again, I just think there's so many things I can say with this. Let's start off with this. It's number one, it just starts off with Kevin Stefanski replacing a head coach that had a better record than him when I'm talking about his last 2 years, that being 25.3%, 8-26. That's what the math says that percentage is. So that's problematic. The other problem that I have is that after he was signed, Matt Ryan says that it's something I saw on social media somewhere. I saw reportedly or on this video, whatever, that Matt Ryan says that he's a player's coach. I don't, me personally, I don't agree with that. And it happened to come at a time where there was this video floating around social media and Myles Garrett is in the background rolling his eyes in the locker room. Did you see that? When
Yes,
Kevin
I
Stefanski,
did.
when Kevin Stefanski was talking after all of this stuff just happened,
He says, like,
with
I've never lied to you guys, right? And
he was like, have I lied to you guys? Have I lied to you guys? And Myles Garrett's in the background rolling his eyes, and he can speak to whatever that means. We just saw the eye roll. You can elaborate from there. But the point is that this came on the heels of all the stuff that just transpired, with the Cleveland Browns, and so I think there's just a lot to show. Now I'm glad to see that he's hired 2 of the 3 coaches that he had fired after getting his second Coach of the Year, because I also said on my timeline at the time that I think those coaches were a big part of him getting 2-time Coach of the Year, because he had not gotten that since they'd left. He went on to be 25% in his winning percentage as a coach. And then somebody else, told me, off the side that that there seems to be some concerns that are going on relative to just the press that the signing was getting, and potentially asking if others, might say something positive. That's a little scoop that I haven't put on out on there. But my point is that there seems to be a realization that there are swaths of the Falcons fan base that are, have questions, fair questions relative to the sign. I mean, we're talking about the city where Deion Sanders also played. So the good thing for Kevin is that he's got some really good assets. The flip side of that coin is he ain't got no excuse. So as someone that covered used to say all the time, Odell Beckham Jr., we gonna see. We gonna see. We gonna see, because I know in September and October, as I got my glasses here, we are going to see. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I think hard for me to add more to that. You said Odell. Giants fans have been like clamoring for the Giants to re-sign him still.
Oh yeah,
they want him back. They want him back in New York.
Giants glory.
Yeah, they want to feel that electricity that hasn't been around here for a while. Just Odell walking out there, even if he was on the team and came back and was like mentoring the young pups, I think New York's starving for something. So his name's still out there. So you just said that. Like, I literally, when we do our Talking Ball live chats over on my channel, I get asked about Odell right now once every time I go live, and I'm like, "Wait,
shall we call? Oh, I don't think he's gonna pick up. But shall we call?
Call
okay, he's not gonna pick up. Yesterday, I talked to him. He was he was golfing. He said he was being Tiger Woods. I know he's not gonna pick up.
Tell him you're on with me, and then see.
No, he probably mad at tweeted. What'd you say?
I said you tell him you're on with me, and then see if he picks up.
It did. Hang up.
Yeah.
Hey.
No, so as far as this free agency period goes, though, This has been an intriguing day. I think my favorite signing around the league so
Mm.
far
Hmm.
is the John Franklin Myers with the Titans. And
Why?
I say that because, well, from a Giants lens, I think they needed to add more interior defensive line help next to Dexter Lawrence. You can't just expect him to do everything. And think about when you add a player of that caliber to your line, when you already have a star in the middle, what it can do for your ability to pressure the quarterback. And you have Jeffrey Simmons there in Tennessee already.
Okay,
So
hold on. We do have a text from Odell. So
okay,
he says to call him in 2 hours when he's finished rehab.
all right. We'll see him
Because
then.
every minute I'm calling you talking about call me in 2 hours. That's what I told you. Call you in 2 hours. Oh, and by the way, I do want you to finish your thought on John Franklin Myers, but while I'm
Yeah,
just having a quick distraction thought, hopefully we get another guest, NFC East guest on the show later today. If he can join me, I did call him today. I'm not gonna say who it is, but every minute I call him, he's fixing something in his house. Something is broken. Last time I called, air condition broken. Today, security system broken. I'm like, every time I call you, something going on with your house. Why something going on with your? Call me in two. Everybody said call him in 2 hours. But go ahead. So you're talking about John Franklin Myers because the Robert Saleh and the Titans have picked up a bunch of picks today. Go ahead.
yeah. I like it because next to Jeffrey Simmons, I think that's how you build a team. Inside out. It's something that was a player that the Giants could have used, liked. I understand why he's reuniting with Salah there, and I won't say I love that how the Titans have spent so far. Like they've grabbed a lot of these Giants players who have been good role players, but in my mind are not worth top money. Like Wandale, Flott, Bellinger, all like solid contributors. Are they worth
Okay,
the
that's a
trade?
really good point. Okay, so that's a really good point. So I asked somebody about the Titans on that yesterday, and this was their response. So the
Okay.
response was because we were talking about the players that were out there, what is the club looking potentially to acquire and all these other things and some of these names. Talking about the quality of the names, and the response to me was, this is a team that is going to take some time to build, and it's not going to happen, overnight, and whoopity whoop wop whoop wop whoop, and so that's something I say all the time. I just said that live, didn't I do it? But I always
You
say
did.
that.
You did. Can't get that anywhere else.
I'm always saying whoop 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 whoop. Okay, but so the question was about the strategy and if that was the path you should follow in terms of whatever your rating is on this player versus just impact. I'm not gonna say they're not impactful, but there's just tiers to this thing,
Yeah.
and I think you know what I'm trying to say without being whatever. But
For
thoughts,
sure.
go ahead.
No, no, and I think listen, if you're a Titans fan, and again, this is through a Giants lens, it circles back too. If you're a Titans fan, like last year, the Patriots had the most cap space in the league. They had a high draft pick that they used on Will Campbell. They had a promising first round pick in Drake May going into his second year. They hire a new head coach, new offensive coordinator, and off we go. The thing the Giants don't have right now, even though they have the optimism of John Harbaugh, and as we've seen, they've added some players so far, and they do have a high draft pick, they don't have that cap space like the Titans do right now to go and add like a key contributor at every position and maybe really take that jump. Because when the Patriots do what they did, teams like the Titans and the Giants who have Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, et cetera, they go, that could be us. Well, right now, even though, like I said, I don't agree with some of the levels of money they're spending on these guys, if you're a Tennessee Titans fan or if you're someone who's just following the whole league, this is an interesting day watching Tennessee because this type of cap space does allow you to make a jump. Now, will they make that jump in the actual standings and be able to hold their own against the Texans and the Colts and the Jaguars? Right? Will they catch them right away? No, I'm not saying that. But if you were a New York fan, you're looking at this with a little bit of envy as far as like having Harbaugh is great. If only we had that 100 million in cap space, like a real rebuilding team, rather than trying to squeeze some of these signings in. So it's fascinating to look at it from that lens of like, hey, Raiders and Titans high up top the draft board with a ton of space, high picks, reset. The Giants are a little bit in the middle ground right now of that, but trying to get creative, obviously, with these signings. Likely, you mentioned, we didn't talk about Tremaine Edmonds from Chicago, but they added Tremaine Edmonds at linebacker as well. I think that's like 3 years, 33 million, something like that. Not my favorite signing there, to be honest, but they do need a veteran presence in the middle.
So I think based on what I'm hearing you say, the thing that just sticks out to me is, beyond just the tier of the free agent that these teams are acquiring is just, what ultimately will prove to be the X factor of coaching. So we saw the difference, with Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels coming to New England. We saw the difference of Ben Johnson, with Caleb. And so I think, obviously Isaiah Likely is a big, acquisition. And, we talk about, whatever tier, they end up doing next. But what we will want to see unfold is just the impact of the Harbaugh culture, the Harbaugh program, on Jackson Dart, on, the next level of wins for the team. And that's really what you're hoping to see, because let me tell you, talking to league sources, I'll just say as it comes to, the Patriots, listening to certain people as it relates to that, even though the Patriots just went to the Super Bowl, you listen to certain people when it comes to that roster, and they, it's just like you would think they didn't even go to the Super Bowl. So it's just like, okay, whatever. You just came out the Super Bowl. But the factor of coaching on the Giants is, I think, is almost a free agent acquisition in and of itself, is what I'm saying.
Oh, very good point by you. Very good point. And I think when you said earlier about Isaiah Likely's humility and his like makeup, that jumped out to me because now again, I don't think Tremaine Edmonds at linebacker. I'm not even sure how big of an upgrade at all he is over Bobby Okereke, who the Giants just released. But what I do see in Likely, who I think can be a high-end player, and in Edmonds, even though I don't feel as strongly about his talents, what I see is character, culture, leadership, locker room, right? Like when you talk about the new coach trying to reset an identity of a team without 120 million in cap space where you're just going to get the best player at every position, right? And attacking it like that. I think what you are seeing is the Harbaugh imprint so far on the
Yeah, he's going to be there to help install culture, because you don't have Todd Monken obviously in terms of that familiarity, because now he's the head coach of the Browns, and so that he would have been there to even help install with the offense from that standpoint. But mainly he's going to be there to imprint the culture, someone that John Harbaugh's familiar with. He ain't got to worry about. He knows he's going to know his routes, be there, help out Jackson, and all that other stuff. Anything else that stands out to you relative to free agency that you that you want to say? We have Gardner Minshew now reaching a one-year deal with the Cardinals via Adam Schefter's ESPN while we're here live talking about free agency.
Interesting. I think the Rams trade for McDuffie caught my attention because they were already a Super Bowl contender, and then attacking the greatest weakness on their roster, barring any significant injuries to key players, they're going to be a Final Four team most likely. I think the money that Linderbaum and Kenneth Walker both got, while deserved and earned, was eye-opening. Even Alec Pierce, eye-opening, and that happens every time or every year around this time. Even Jalen.
And what did Alec Pierce go for? Was it 29 million a year?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, okay. And so when your girl was talking about, folks was talking about 30 yesterday, and that the Patriots wasn't going to step in on that. Patriots did not do that. Money was close to 30, and the Colts front office good because they get a little bit, below that. And I said that someone had told me that the San Francisco 49ers possibly would have done that. And I haven't been able to get a second source on this because I'm busy doing stuff like this. But somebody did tell me that that was an option for Pierce, and he opted to stay at home at the figure I was talking about. But go ahead.
That's right. So I have a question for you from an NFC East lens. Well, first I'll say this. On the Giants end right now, the next thing to watch for is corner, maybe a starting level corner, offensive line, a guard. Illuminor is obviously still unresolved at right tackle. And like I said, I think they need interior defensive line help as well as some weapons. Tyquan Thornton, maybe a wide receiver to check.
All these names that you're just rattling off is just like, all I can think about is how different the Giants are compared to when I used to be up there all the time. It's just like, that is just, you're just remember that one time I came to practice, I was standing by you and I was like, who was that in 13? Remember that? I could.
I t- they gave that number away already.
What?
To
Joe!
who? To who?
Oh, look, here I go. Look back, here I go. Like,
No doubt. Oh, no doubt. Well, so
there's so much change. But go ahead. Go
no,
ahead. Go ahead.
so here's one of my biggest fascinations though is like, I do think for me, I keep telling Giants fans and people who ask around the league, I think the John Harbaugh optimism, I think 2027, so in other words, year 2 of his regime is the year to watch them maybe start to turn a corner. I think right now, as you alluded to, it's like setting some pieces, trying to reset a foundation. But I think another part of that is what's happening elsewhere in the division, Cowboys, Eagles. So I had a question for you because I mentioned Jalen Phillips. The Eagles traded for him at the edge, and then he re-signs at a big number, like $30 million a year on a long-term deal with the Panthers. So the Eagles have been a Miles Garrett trade watch team. Howie Roseman's the big game hunter. You still have Trey Hendrickson out there who was supposed to be maybe a Dallas Cowboy potentially. The Cowboys trade for Rayshon
You're not
Gary.
going to ask me about Dallas and Trey Hendrickson, are you?
I'm asking you about Dallas, Philly, and premier edge rushers because both of these teams, now, like I said, Dallas just went and got Rayshon Gary from the Green
Gary.
Bay Packers from
I
the
was just
defensive
about
line.
so I can't so because of that acquisition, which I woke up late today, but whatever. I'm past that. I'm past that.
I just struck a nerve.
The I listen. This is you know about this. This is what happens because we run our shows by ourselves. You see what I'm saying? So it's only so much I can do. At one time. Whatever. Do you see a big newsroom back here full of people handing me stuff? No. All right. Anyways, I digress. My point is that so what did I hear? So because of the result of the acquisition of Rayshon, I don't know if you were about to ask me if they were still in on Trey or whatever. The thought process is, what did somebody tell me? Let me rephrase the pronouns here. The Cowboys have Rayshon Gary, so why would they be in on Trey? And you know why I'm changing pronouns here because whatever. But right. So to answer that question, so it doesn't look like
I could answer that for them if they
yeah,
want.
that doesn't look like that's going to be their viewpoint, or their you know what I'm trying to say, what they're going to do.
I got you. You. Interesting. That's interesting. No, because from a Giants standpoint, catching those teams means right. It means getting more talent to compete with their talent on the field, and both of those rosters are steps ahead of the Giants or light years ahead of them, and so do the Eagles make a splash to address the edge? Do the Dallas Cowboys continue to fortify
Like
a
who?
defense that's been
Like with
lacking in
who?
personnel?
Like with
What
who?
do they jump in a Trey sweepstakes? Is Miles Garrett still the apple of Howie Roseman's eye? Um, what is Philly doing? Because you and I both know that Howie's a big game hunter, and with the personnel they have, how much longer does Lane Johnson have left? Trying to maximize Saquon Barkley's prime. Obviously, they re-signed Jordan Davis. They're addressing the fronts, but my question is: are they going to continue to big game hunt in the NFC East, or is the Giants, let's say, marginal upgrades on the offensive and defensive lines? If the Eagles and the Cowboys aren't making splashes there, can the Giants catch up in that line of scrimmage battle with their two biggest rivals? Because that's really where these 3-win, 4-win seasons from the Giants start, is their inability to compete in the division and on the line of scrimmage with those teams. So that's why I'm asking you that.
I mean, you always have to look out for Howie making some sort of 40 chess move. I'm sitting up here updating this free agency tracker. That's why I'm stretching out like this, trying to look, trying to see, who else, could potentially be out there if you're not thinking from the draft, or potentially, because there are people. Sorry, hold on one second.
Yeah, you're good.
There are people in the draft who can help at edge and might not necessarily have the experience, or if your viewpoint, like I was saying, as far as folks I was talking to yesterday, bringing up next year and the viewpoint next year.
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying, who else could that be outside of Trey? And then if I was looking really quickly at my, let me just put Trey Hendrickson in here. I just want to see what his numbers were last year. Let me see. So Trey, he played in 7 games. Is that what I see? 4 sacks.
Sounds right.
16 combined tackles. I mean, I was talking to a league source yesterday who was just talking about, I guess, there's some people who have different viewpoints on what they think like his potency is now. So that's why I asked you when you were saying that, who is that person?
Yeah.
So, and this is maybe why I'm also hearing some, people around the league talking about next year too.
Makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So anyways, well, look, there's a lot still, going to be happening. There's some, players out there who are waiting to, figure things out. I don't think we've heard anything on Juwan Jennings yet.
No.
Clowney's still out there. People want to hear about OBJ. Obviously, Josina, he always bring up OBJ. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, there's still some names out there. Cameron Jordan, Christian Kirk, David Njoku, unless these have been updated since, we have been on. Jalen Hawkins, Bobby Wagner. Let's see. Wyatt Teller. Oh, Kevin Byard. I need to call Kevin. Maybe that's going to be my next call after this. I need to call Kevin. Because last I talked to him in San Francisco at Super Bowl, obviously wanting to, my microphone needs to be tight. I need to get one of them Allen wrenches.
Get a quote from Kevin on Tremaine Edmonds.
Oh yeah. Oh, there you go. But yeah, I remember talking to him at Super Bowl, and he was just saying, obviously wasn't sure if he was going back to Chicago. Got to see, what folks talking about. Would love to go back to Chicago, but clearly was impactful in the passing lanes with the interceptions this year. I would have loved to see him with your Giants, but I think the perspective there was that, matter of fact, I know the perspective there was that he was gonna cost too much. I don't know, but anyways, so I'm a big Kevin Byard fan because I think you get production and you're getting someone who you can count on in the locker room, good guy, and you see the impact that Al Harris had so much on that secondary for the Chicago Bears. Because I also think strategically, if you take Kevin Byard away from Chicago, that's somebody that, and he probably, I'm probably gonna get a call like, why are you saying that? But that's somebody that Al Harris relies on, to implement the things that he's doing in that secondary as well.
Heard a lot of great things about Al Harris at the combine, walking around talking to people. Like even I don't think anything's happened with Nashawn Wright yet, their corner, who's a free agent.
Yeah, not that I'm aware
But
of.
I know that was a guy who really blossomed and exploded basically last season
underneath Al Harris. And conversely, just the impact of him not being in Dallas and his absence, not being, with Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland, and those guys in Dallas. So you seen the impact, and again, I think Al just was probably looking for something different when it comes to the title and money that didn't work out with Jerry Jones and Dallas, and you end up in Chicago. But okay.
Well, there's something about this is an interesting topic because there's definitely something Al Harris obviously knows something about taking the ball away. When you look at Deron Bland setting records and getting paid off of a year where it was every damn Sunday the guy had the ball in his hands, and then you look at the Bears defense, which really wasn't that good. But they had some good players on it, but as a unit, they gave up a lot of yards. Team was marched down the field, and then they just keep forcing takeaways. They just kept bailing themselves out with red zone takeaways and forced fumbles. Even the Giants, when I went there in Chicago, the Giants were killing them, and moving the ball and this and that. But it was Jackson's running down the sideline, pop, ball out, turnover.
Because in talking about sitting out and gaining your leverage, what would the Bears defense be if Al Harris decided to sit out this year?
Right, right. No,
That's how you raise your money, because how much of that, is him. And I always say this to players who are, corners back in the day, anybody, linebackers, anybody going off, going after the ball, tackling in the open field. Because I always say when I'm watching the game, I'm like, how come y'all? And this is just me watching. I say, how come y'all always, not always, but a lot of times y'all look like you're waiting for the ball to come into the body of the receiver before you make the tackle? I'm like, jump the ball, jump the ball. You see it coming. Jump the ball. So you're talking about what is he doing to tell them to be so prolific at being in the passing lanes and getting interceptions. I'm like, jump in the damn whatever. But y'all used to say DRC was off the ball too much, taking too many risks. That was maybe a stray or whatever. But that's what I like to see. I want to see somebody taking a chance and grabbing the ball and going the other direction.
Yeah, and as far as Nahshon Wright goes, again, I don't know where I haven't seen his name come down. I haven't heard anything about him like making a decision, but like he's one of the more attractive, interesting corners right now based on the season he just had. But like, there's a chance a guy like that could see value in staying in Chicago, because if Chicago values him properly, then he can stay playing under Al Harris, the coach who took him from someone no one ever talked about to, who is this guy again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So look at you taking calls, Hollywood.
Oh, no. It's not 2 hours yet.
Yeah, he said 2 hours. That means
no. But I heard everything you said. The value of Nahshon staying in Chicago because he knows he's under the tutelage of Al Harris, and that's going to continue to increase his value. But listen, I do appreciate it. I said we were going to be 10 minutes. Of course, here we go, at 40 minutes. But I appreciate you jumping on. There's still more to come. Free agency still ongoing. We're right now 5 o'clock East Coast time on the first day of the legal tampering period in the NFL with free agency. I appreciate you, Pat Leonard from the New York Daily News, jumping on the exhibit show to talk. I'm sure we'll jump on again or react to something. Clarence, somebody will be on. Morris Chestnut still got to come on. Still has not accounted for his Eagles. Richie, got to say something about his Giants. Clarence got to say something about whoopity whoop whoop whoop. What is that? The Cowboys. So we'll do it again, and maybe I'll have a special guest on later on this evening if he can fix his security system on in his house. But I'm Josina Anderson. It's your girl hosting the exhibit show. We appreciate you joining us live on Twitter and on YouTube, and we are out. We'll talk to you later. All right, bye. Thanks, Pat.
Yo. Talking Ball live, 9 p.m. tonight on YouTube as well.
Don't catch Pat. Talking ball. Your boy on YouTube.
Let's
support independent media. You ain't finding it on networks no more. Bye.
Bye.